doors. It's not just when we need something marvelous and magnificent to happen. How aware are we of His presence on a daily basis? Because it's here to overwhelm you. It's here to overtake you, no matter what you're going through. You know, it's it's kind of cool that Chloe led tonight. Give Chloe a hand, amen. It kind of goes with my message tonight, but I saw this thing today, and it said, if you're serious about change, you have to go through uncomfortable situations. Stop trying to dodge the process. It's the only way to grow. So sometimes we dodge the process of the situations that God has for us to go through, and we misread them. And we say, God, why me? He puts us in uncomfortable situations where we grow. Sometimes it's in the uncomfortability that our faith grows. And sometimes when we step out in the unknown that our faith grows beyond measure. So I have this question for you. Chloe, did you have a clue you were leading praise today? You were a little scared, weren't you? I saw your face. My dad said, so I was going to have to lead praise. And Chloe wasn't going to say nothing. Chloe was like, I can sing songs, but I'm not. But see, it's when you're put in uncomfortable circumstances and situations that God will grow you the most. Why? Because it's in those moments. Even though she was terrified, you know what she did? She let go of control. You know what she did? She said, all right, God, I got to put faith in you. There's nothing else I can do. And see, then sometimes what happens is the enemy comes to us and goes, see, you weren't good enough. See, nobody really likes you leading praise. See, that was a lie. You know what? I stood over there and my heart was so happy because you know what? That's just the beginning. That's just the beginning of the word that God has spoken to you. There will be many more. You'll look back and we'll say, we're probably sitting here a year from now. And Chloe's going to be singing out in the house, singing the great voice. And remember the time you were so afraid to lead praise?
Hey, remember that one time it was just me and Anita?
Yeah. Remember that one time? Everybody said, hey, can I lead it? You mark my words, it will change. Once you get a taste, and God meets you in the middle of that uncomfortability, when God meets you in the middle of that situation that you think, I don't know if I can do this, but when He meets you there, and you get a taste of it, and you know that when you grab that opportunity, He was right there with you, you're going to hunger for it again. Amen. You mark my words, Chloe, you'll hunger for it again. Yeah. That was for free.
That's right.
Oh, I remembered it. Okay. I think everybody guessed what I was preaching on tonight, maybe. Has anybody ever been in a situation or something ever hit you out of the blue and you say, God, why me?
Yep.
God, why did this happen to me? Have you ever been there? You know, I was sitting here last weekend and I kept asking God, why did I have to go through that to get to where I am today? Can't I get to the same place that you want to take me without going through those things? But you can't. Unfortunately, you can't. And here's the thing. If you want to grow, you can't dodge it. You got to go through the process, right? And so I sat in church on Sunday. And Chuck was preaching a message. I hated it. You know why? Because it caused self-examination. And if I'm honest, there's times and things in my life that I could give up to get closer to God. That would enhance the process. That would make the process maybe a little easier. Or maybe I'd have a little bit more faith in the middle of the process instead of trying to dodge it, right? And so Chuck was preaching and I thought, boy, this makes me uncomfortable. I hate this message. I don't want to give up my time. Your time. That's funny. But he said something and it caught my attention. He said, you know, when I was preaching last week and I used the scripture, our flesh is weak and the spirit is willing. And he said, the Lord asked me, why do you feed the weak? And when he said that, I thought, I've never asked that question. Why do I constantly feed what's weak in me? Why do I constantly feed something that causes me to dodge the know why? Because the things I can see require no faith. My phone requires no faith. My television requires no faith. It doesn't challenge me. But when I pick up that Word of God and I'm struggling, it challenges me. And you know what it teaches me? All the men and women of God that went through faith, that went through circumstances and situations that got them to where they are. Faith, complete trust or confidence in someone or something. You know you can't have trust without faith, and you can't have faith without trust. Because when you have faith in somebody, you completely put your trust in somebody. When you walk down an aisle and you give yourself to somebody, you're committing your entire life to someone. You're saying, I completely trust you. I completely have faith in you, in us, that no matter what we may face, we'll face it together. That no matter what storm, obstacle comes our way, we're going to face it together. When you give yourself completely to somebody, you're saying, I'm all yours. Have you completely given yourself to God?
Come on.
Have you completely given Him control over everything in your life? To say, God, no matter what we're going to go through, we're going to go through it together. No matter what we may face, we're going to go through it together. God, it might get rocky. There might be times I want to throw up my hands and quit. But I know that I know that I know that I have been tried and I have been tested. And your faith, my trust in you, has always brought me through.
Come on, Gary.
We can't give up what we want because we have to see everything going on. We have a hard time trusting because we believe in everything we see.
Come
we
on.
believe in what the TV tells us to believe in.
Come
We
on.
believe in what this one says we should believe in. Oh, well, this one says this, so it must be true. Well, was it tried? Was it tested? Then is it true? Because my Bible teaches me, unless it's tried in that fire, and it comes out gold, then it's been tried. Remember when they came and tried to put the armor on David, what did he say? That hasn't been tried. But you know what's been tried? My spiritual creation. That when the lion and the bear came, I slew them with my faith in Jesus. Has it been tried by His Word? If it hasn't, why do we let it set in our homes?
All right.
Why do we put our trust and faith in it if it hasn't been tried by His Word? We as people, it's our human nature to put our trust and faith in what we can see. Because believing in something you can't see is crazy, right? Believing in a God who isn't physically here, that's crazy, right? Believing in something that you can't physically touch or embrace makes you seem crazy, doesn't it? So we must be crazy. I'm crazy, I'm radical, and I don't care what anybody says. Go with me to Hebrews 11. Faith. Faith is trusting God even when you don't understand His plan. I don't know if you can tell, but this is a maze. I don't know if you've ever been in a maze when, listen, I have. Listen, I will tell you, I have never done, well maybe, but that is one of the most frustrating things that I ever had to do. But here's the thing, we did it one year, and I had a team with me. And our team had to rely on our team. Yeah, that was rough. Well listen, so here's the thing, if you got to the end of the maze, and you were one person, the maze was incomplete. And I looked at the person running and I said, wait a minute, I made it through the maze. And he said, that wasn't the goal. Where's everybody else? Well, I don't know. He said, you mean you came through the maze by yourself? You didn't bring your team? You found a way out. And you found the way to go. But you left everybody behind. We don't need God, Stephanie. But yet, without Him, we have no purpose.
Yeah.
He is the one that holds the plan. He is the one that holds the future. But see, when I went back for my team, do you know it took me less time to get through the maze with my team than it did by myself? Why? Because I learned to relinquish control. I learned that it was okay to trust the person behind me. And that person learned it was okay to trust the person behind them. And to say, wait, maybe there's a better way. Do you trust God enough that when you turn, He says, no, not that way, Stephanie. I have a different way. And you might say, well, God, the sign over there says dead end. But God says, I'm going to take that dead end and make a road. I'm going to take that dead end and ground will appear. You say, well, that's crazy. No, that's called faith. That's called faith. Hebrews 11:1. I'm going to read this first part in King James, and I'm going to flip to the Amplified. It says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Is the substance of what you hope for left behind? You say, Karen, what are you talking about? You know what, God showed me this. I laugh at myself all the time when God shows me stuff sometimes. But you ever been in a house with somebody, like you got kids or something, and they make a mess? And they try to clean it up the best they can, and you come in and there's a substance left behind, and you're like, all right, who did it? And I was like, I didn't do it. Nothing happened. And you're like, obviously something happened. I can see there's flour and there's, you try to clean up the best you can, but see, that person that comes behind you saw the substance of the evidence of what you were doing. So what are you hoping for? What do you have faith for? Faith is the substance of things hoped for. So what is the substance of what you hope for? Do you hope for a new car? Do you hope for a new house? Nothing wrong with those. Or do you hope for the things of God? Do you seek for greater depth in His Word? Do you seek for greater intimacy in His Spirit? Wasn't Chuck just talking about that on Sunday? A greater intimacy. See, sometimes that's what we lack, is intimacy with our Heavenly Father. The longer you spend with somebody, the more your trust and faith in them grows. Why? Because you get to know them. You understand how they work. You understand how they speak. You understand how they walk. You understand when they get frustrated sometimes, like, okay, maybe I should have done that. Because you understand them. See, when I come in intimacy with God, I know I'm greater. Which means when I go through a situation, I won't hope for what I can see. I'll hope for what I can't see.
All right.
I'll hope for His Word. I'll hope for His Spirit. I'll hope for Him. Why? Because in the moments that I was in intimacy with Him, in moments where I put everything aside and I said, God, I need You, He was there. When I was struggling and I turned on my TV, I didn't find no hope. When I picked up my phone, there was no hope. It was only greater turmoil. But when I picked up my Word, when I got alone with Him, there was a freedom. Why? Because there is a trust and a faith that when I come to Him, He won't run and tell somebody else, but He'll wrap His arms around me.
Come on.
Inside of me and pull it all out. But what is the substance of what you hope for? Do we only hope for the things that we can physically touch? Because that's easy. But when I'm struggling, do I hope for God? Do I say, God, I need You? I need You greater today than I needed You yesterday.
All right.
I need You greater in this second than I did 5 seconds ago.
Yes.
Well, it was a hard message Chuck preached on Sunday. Yeah, it was. But sometimes you need those.
Yes, you do.
To wake you up to say, what is it that I want more than anything in this life? Because long after everything fades away, my phone won't mean nothing, my food won't mean nothing, my TV won't mean nothing, my working out won't mean nothing. But you know what will mean something? times when it was just me and God.
Yes.
And there was nobody. Nobody. And he was the only one that could wrap his arms around me in that moment and say, it's okay. All is well. And it was in that moment my faith grew. It was in that moment my trust grew. You know why? Because I felt it. His love is one of the most realest things you'll ever feel. But sometimes we don't trust him enough to let down the walls to even feel it.
Come on.
To even experience it. Well, sometimes I think, well, I can only experience it at church. Oh, no. You can experience his presence everywhere you are. The Amplified says, now faith is the assurance titled deed, confirmation of things hoped for, divinely guaranteed, and the evidence of things not seen. The conviction of the reality, faith, comprehends as fact, and what cannot be experienced by physical senses. My physical senses sometimes can't attain the Holy Ghost. Sometimes my physical senses won't understand what God's doing. God may tell you to go. Just like I said a while ago, people may be walking in front behind you, and God's like, you better keep going. How do you think Moses felt when he was holding that rod? He said, don't worry, God's got it. And he's like, all right, now what are we doing? Yeah. Boy, that would take some faith. Because if I'm standing in front of a sea, and we're about to get crushed, here comes the armies, and we're about to get crushed. And I said, it's okay, God's got it. Boy, that had to take some faith. That had to take some trust in knowing, no matter what, God's going to take us to the other side. Boy, that takes some faith. That means Moses had some moments of intimacy. That means Moses had some moments where it was just him and God. And when he came to that point, it was still him and God. Sometimes what God has us do doesn't make sense to our physical. Why do we ask the Lord? What do we ask the Lord for? Faith is the assurance, divinely guaranteed deed that God will be with you no matter what. See, faith gives you the ability to know it's not the things of this world that will get you through, but it's your faith in Jesus. It's your faith in his word and spirit that will get you through. Is the hope of our faith leaving substance behind for others to see? In verse 2, for by this kind of faith, the men of old gained divine approval. Through their faith, God gave them divine approval. The faith they had back then, God gave them divine approval. Do we have the kind of faith today that holds divine approval? In verse 3, by faith, that is with an inherent trust, enduring confidence in the power, wisdom, and goodness of God. We understand that the world's universe, ages, were framed and created, formed, put in order, and equipped for their intended purposes by the Word of God, so that what is seen was not made out of things which are visible. Our faith is our inheritance and given to us through trust and enduring confidence that we would see the things of the world for what they are. See, God has equipped us by his word for the purpose he intended for us. Yeah. But we lose faith because we start looking at all the things we can see. And it brings distractions and puts roadblocks in front of our faith. And we can no longer see our faith. In verse 6, you might say, well, why is faith important? Well, without faith, it is impossible. It doesn't say, without faith, you have a chance. It says it's impossible. It's impossible, Stephanie. What's impossible? It's impossible to walk with God and please him. So it's not just a maybe. Well, I can have just a little faith in maybe. Well, I can just have a little faith impossible to walk with him. Why? Because a relationship with God requires faith. You know why? Because he will test you every day. He will test the faith in you every day. He will say, will you say, mountain, be thou moved? Will your mountain move? Will we have the kind of faith that will say, no, get behind me, Satan? A relationship and walking with God requires a daily faith. Whoever comes near to God must necessarily believe that God exists and that he rewards those who diligently seek him. What does faith cause us to do? Diligently seek him. You know why? Because when we have faith in Jesus, it teaches us that the things of this world, they can't get us to where we're going. They may be stepping stones sometimes. We need them sometimes. We got to pay bills, and we got to feed ourselves, and we got to do this, and we got to do that. But when I hit a circumstance and a situation, it's not my phone, it's not my food, it's not my job, it's not those things, but it's his word. It's my inheritance that he left to me. It's the faith from the previous time that he brought me from. And he brought me out of a situation that my faith grew. And he said, hey, will you have enough faith this time to get you through? Will you have enough faith this time to get you through? Where do we lose our faith? Faith is the road through the impossible. You ever been faced with a situation that you think is impossible? And you know what I love about this? I bet you can't tell. There's a person over there, and what that little girl is stepping on is the pages of the Bible. So what feeds my faith? His word. What gives me, what's a lamp to my feet? What guides my steps, Renita? That's word. That's Psalms. In Psalms, David said, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. So if I'm crossing and I don't see no hope, what am I going to turn to? His word. I'm going to have faith that in what his word said. That when I go to step, faith is the road to the impossible. Verse 4. By faith. Remember that. By faith. It's interesting. It says, by faith. Abel offered to God a more acceptable sacrifice than Cain, through which it was testified of him that he was righteous, upright, in right standing with God. And God testified by accepting his gifts. And though he died, yet through this act of faith, he still speaks. His testimony still speaks today because he had that kind of faith. It's still speaking to us today because he had that kind of faith. Abel had a sacrifice. Cain had a sacrifice. And because Abel apparently had more faith, God accepted his. You know what Cain did? He went and killed his brother. You ever have something in your life that you gave to God, and somebody come and try to take your life? And I'm not just talking about your physical life, I'm talking about your spiritual life. You ever make a decision in your life and say, all right, God, I'm all in. And somebody comes and they try to take that very spiritual life that God has given you and says, well, I can do better with it.
Come on.
Because that's what Cain thought. Let's be honest, Cain thought, I'm better than my brother. So I'll just kill him and take what's his. Well, apparently, he thought Abel must have been better. But how often do we surround ourselves with people who steal our faith? Who steal what God has given us? Who take from our spiritual creation? Sometimes we take from ourselves. Verse 5. Here's another one. By faith, that pleased God, Enoch was caught up and taken to heaven so that he would not have a glimpse of death. And he was not found because God had taken him from even before. He was taken to heaven. He received the testimony, still on record, that he had walked with God and pleased him. Do we live our life through faith so much so that our testimony is on record with God? That we will walk with him and he will be pleased in us? By faith. He's still on record. It still holds a place in heaven today because of his obedience to his faith. Wow. Do we have that kind of faith that still is on record today? That when God comes to somebody, he says, hey, do you remember when this time, people talk about, what would people write about you if they wrote a Bible about you? Well, it might happen someday. Somebody might write. And when God's coming on him to write, he might say, hey, put in there when I brought Stephanie through that storm. Because she had so much faith in me, it just overwhelmed my heart.
Come on.
She trusted me. Remember that time, Gina, when you thought you had nothing? And I was right there. You said, no, I have it all because I got Jesus. Will it still be on record? When they write, will it still be on record? Will God say, oh man, I remember when I brought you through that. All the angels in heaven, it was like we all came through with you. Here we go again. Here's another one. By faith, with confidence in God and his word, Noah being warned by God about events not yet seen in the reverence, prepared an ark for the salvation of his family. By this act of obedience, he condemned the world and became an heir of the righteousness which comes by faith. Now, if you don't know the story of Noah, God came to him and told him to build an ark. Now, I'm going to tell you something. God came to me today and said, build an ark. I don't know what I would do. You said, Carrie, you're preaching on faith, and you said, well, I'm being honest. And he came to me and said, build it like you do. He said, build it with all this gold for wood, build it this high, build it this wide. And I'm thinking, wait a second. Okay, so you're telling me to build an ark, and there's never been a flood. I haven't even seen a drop of rain. Not going to happen. Faith is the road to the impossible. So it would have been very easy for him to say, listen, God, all right, there has been no rain, ever. And you're telling me to build a boat. That doesn't even do it justice. And you're telling me to build all these stuff, this wide, this tall. Well, I don't know if I know what that means. Let me do it. He told me what kind of wood to build it with. He told me, he said, the flood's going to come. Now listen, I can only imagine when Noah was building this thing. The people that walk by this. Come on, this thing, you're going to tell me people didn't walk by and see that? And here he is, and Noah probably was like, God told me. Because he was a crazy one. He was a crazy one to believe in what he couldn't see. He was a crazy one, right? So, faith will make you crazy. But that's all right. But as he's going, I'm sure there was many that walked by. And there was many that said, Noah, you're a little crazy. Now, there has never been a flood on this earth. Not even a drop of rain, and you're building a boat. And then I'm sure God told me to get 2 of every animal. Boy, 2 of every animal. And when those things were going on the ark, people are thinking, this dude is messed up. This dude is crazy. He is lost in space. He's building an ark in a place that there's never been. This dude is crazy. And what happens? asking you. Don't let me down now. Because I'm halfway building this thing. I'm about to put these animals on here. And if I close this thing up and it doesn't start raining. All right, God. All right. Lord, take me now. Right? He builds it. He closes the door. And rain starts to come. Now, can you imagine those who didn't have the faith? Who couldn't see what Noah saw? When it started raining, could you imagine what went through their minds? Like, okay, maybe this dude wasn't so crazy. Okay, open the door. Open the door. I want to know probably how many people were at the door. Now, let me tell you something. See, Noah could have opened the door. But Noah said, God gave me instructions. And I'm going to follow him to it too. God ever give you instructions and sometimes you leave a little door open. And because you leave a little door open, you know what happens? Faith leaks out. But see, Noah, he was given strict instructions. And probably no matter how many people banged on that door, he said, nope, I can't. You don't have no faith. You can't get on my boat. You can't get on this boat because you don't have no faith. But just because Noah was obedient didn't mean he didn't hit rough waters. Didn't mean he didn't go through storms. Look at this. These animals probably like, listen, this dude just put us on a boat. Now we're in a storm. We've never seen water, but to drink it probably. And here we are on this big old thing. What the? If animals could talk. And I'm sure his sons probably thought too, boy, my dad's crazy. I'm sure his wife thought, my husband is crazy on this ark. Oh, God, what's going to happen to us? But can you imagine what his kids thought after it started raining? And death comes. It brings an olive branch. And the Holy Ghost came right on it. Can you imagine what I thought? I thought, wow, my dad had faith that nobody had. Faith in someone who can't even see. Someone who's not even physically here with us. He just spoke to him and he did it. So, where's our faith? When God says, it's okay, your water won't get cut off. It's okay, your car won't get shut off. It's okay, every bill will be paid. You think, well, okay, God, well, that's not what my bank account says. It's okay, I'll have food on the table. Well, that's not what my bank account says. Mom. But then sometimes you have to lose things in order for you to really have faith. You say, well, that's hard. No, it's not. See, God wiped out everything that was in disobedience. God said, listen, Noah, if no one's going to have faith, just put those 2 animals on, 2 by 2 of every kind. Get your family, shut the door, wait for the flood to come. You know why? Because God was tired of lack of faith. God said, I'm going to show you what faith is. I'm going to take what's impossible and make it possible. But how often do we have trust and faith that God will do what he said he would do? Boy, we don't even trust one another sometimes. We don't even trust in our wives 100% or our friends 100%. They say, oh, I'll do that for you. And you're like, I'll do it. Okay, thanks. I'll do it myself. Why? Because we have a hard time with faith? Because we can't see it? Well, I can't see what that person's doing, so I don't know if they're going to do it or not. Well, I can't see God, so I don't know if he's going to move in my finances or not. Well, I can't see God, but I don't know if he's going to bring healing to me or not. But was he real when nobody else was around? And he hit your lungs, and he reached his arm out, and he was there, and nobody else was. Was he real then? My Bible says he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So the same one that reached down and got you out of your darkest moment is the same one who said, there will be food on the table. There will be food on the table. He's the same one that says, it's okay. The storm will pass. Just grab your pillow. It's okay. The storm that brought you out before. Why do we lose our faith now? Think about this. Noah is still impacting lives today. Because of his faith. Noah is still impacting lives today. David, still impacting lives today because of faith. Paul, his story is still changing lives today. Why? Because he had faith. What does your story tell? I love that. He told him, and Noah prepared. By faith, with confidence, he prepared. There wasn't a moment he doubted. There wasn't a moment where he didn't say it out loud, maybe. Sure, there was maybe from time to time. But he prepared. How often when God speaks to you about something, do you prepare? Do you take the time to sit in his presence and prepare? You don't think when Noah was building that ark, I'm sure he had a hotline right to Jesus. I'm sure he was like, listen, Jesus, I don't even maybe know what gopher wood is. I don't know why. I mean, this is a big old boat. I'm sure he had a hotline right to Jesus. And that's why his faith increased. And he never doubted. Where is our faith to say, God, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll go wherever you send me to go. Why don't we have that kind of faith? Because we're too busy on our phones. Because we're too busy on our TV. We're too busy with everything else. And we can't see the very one who brings us through. We're so busy with everything else. You know what happens? Just like I said, we're so busy with everything else and we kick open a little door. Come on, man. Let's be honest. When we pick up our phones, how much positivity is on it? Come on. How much positivity is on it? You know, you tell yourself, well, I won't go look at that. I won't do it. It's human nature.
Yeah.
You go look at it. Because you can't help it.
Come on.
And then you crack that door open a little bit more. Then you turn on the TV and you say, well, I won't watch that. You open a door. Faith leaks out. And as faith leaks out, trust goes soon behind it. And as trust goes, so does confidence. As confidence goes, then you think, well, he was even really here anyway. God didn't really love me anyway. See, that's when doubt starts filling. See, when all those positive things leak out of the door, and we open it for everything else, then we close it, and we're stuck in doubt. We're stuck in worry. We're stuck in fear. We're stuck in our past. Sometimes we have rubble from our past. It's all in front of us. We're trying to pick it up. And God's saying, move on. We're trying to go back to the rubble. And God's saying, move on. In verse 8, here's another one. By faith, Abraham, when he was called by God, obeyed by going to a place which he was to receive an inheritance. And he went not knowing where he was going. God ever call you and say, hey, come away with me? And you think, well, where am I going? It's 4 o'clock in the morning. He called him away from everything you keep looking back to things that put dust on your feet? Why do you keep going back to the shelf and grabbing things? Leave it alone and run.
Come on.
Run to a new place. Quit trying to pick through the rubble of things that you think you need. It's in the rubble for a reason. It fell down with that house for a reason. Verse 9. By faith, he lived as a foreigner in the promised land, as in a strange land, living in tents as nomads, with Isaac and Jacob, whom were fellow heirs of the same promise. Whether we know it or not, we will never be alone. There will always be someone right there with us that shares the same inheritance we do, that has the same promise we do, who will walk in faith with you. You might look at each other and say, I don't know where God's taking us, but I'm ready for the ride. Now here's the thing. Verse 10. Where was Abraham going? For he was waiting. What's that word? Waiting. Huh? Expectantly and confidently looking forward to the city which has foundations, an eternal heavenly city, whose architect and builder is God. So where was Abraham going? To a place that wasn't built with man's hands. What does an architect do? Makes plans. What does an architect do? He makes plans for builders to build. It draws the plan. So where was Abraham moving? To an architect that wasn't made by man's hands. See, sometimes the house that fell down was built with man's hands. But God is longing to take us to a place that isn't built with man's hands. That is built with his hands. You say, well, what's the difference? When God builds something, man can't take it away from you. When God builds something, man can't come and tear it down. When God builds something, you can't even tear it down. You want to know why? Because he's the creator. He's the builder. He's the architect. He knows the plans he has for you and where he's taking you. He says, if you just take your hands off, quit running back to the rubble, quit running back to the old house, run to the place where I'm calling. You may not know where I'm taking you. You may not know everything about the place, but I'm telling you, it's heavenly. And I'm telling you, it's not built by hands that will destroy you. It's not built by hands who can tell you that you can do this and you can't do that.
Come on.
But it's built by the hands of God. That every day you wake up, he'll breathe new life into you. That every day you wake up, he has a table set just for you. And as you sit at that table and you eat and you sit in the great faith is developed. Why? Because you're in his presence. When you wake up and he's always there and he's never gone. And he says, hey, I got something new for you today. I got something fresh for you today before you start. Just give me 5 minutes. Just give me an hour. And I promise. And see, here's the thing. He's the architect. So as he sets the table for you, Chuck, he already knows what you're going to face that day. He knows what your spirit needs. He knows what you need. Right. Abraham left everything. But God took him to a place where he would have everything. Verse 11. You know, I never saw this before. Listen, I know all these stories that I'm saying. You know, you learn half of them in Sunday school when you're a kid. Woo, Noah, and the ark, you know, that's awesome. Abraham, father of faith. You know, that's awesome. Cain and Abel, that's a big one. You learn all these stories, but I'm reading this and I'm thinking, wow, my God, fit all the people that have faith in one scripture. So he's talking about all these people, and I'm thinking, wow, where's my faith? They didn't have the things that I have today. It says men dreamed that they could taste and see the things that we taste and see today. But you know what? We couldn't see those things without their faith. Their faith made a way. Verse 11. By faith, even Sarah herself received the ability to conceive a child, even when she was long past the normal age for it, because she considered him who had given her the promise to be reliable and true to his word. Wow. Let me ask you this. Has God ever started birthing something new in you? Even when people said you were done?
That's right.
Come on.
Even when people said you would never go anywhere? Has God started birthing something new, even though you have told yourself, I'm past the age God can't use me? Sarah had faith that God was going to give them a son, but Abraham doubted a little bit. You know, when God came, when they came to him, when God came to him, he said, well, she's old. Go look it up. I'm serious. He said, well, she's old. Are you sure? So the same man of faith. So it's possible you can lose faith. Because the same Abraham in a couple verses above Chuck is now saying, well, God, are you sure? Because the same God that told me to pick up and leave everything has changed. Right, Renita? The same God that said, hey, Abraham, pick up everything and leave. He's just going to leave me, Sonia. Yeah. But he looks and he says, well, my wife's kind of old. God said, well, I have a plan. Yeah. Remember, I'm the architect. Yeah. I've got the plan. He said, God, can she really bear a son? With how old she is. But see, God doesn't look on the outside. God has a plan. We just have to put our distractions away and have faith in him. We must get rid of those who doubt around us. We need to surround ourselves with people who have the same faith and trust in God that we do. Because together, faith will never fade. It will only get stronger. Because all we can do is give praise to God. Verse 17. By faith, Abraham, here he is again. No wonder why he was the father of faith, right? When he was tested, that is, as the testing of his faith was still in progress. So wait a minute. Karen, God doesn't just come and test me one time. Huh. So you mean God doesn't just bring me through one big storm and that's the end of it? Huh. So you mean to tell me that God doesn't say pick up and leave everything? Leave all that rubble behind. I got new things for you. Just to bring me to the next thing and say, oh, it's okay. You don't have to have faith this time. Yeah. It said his faith was still in progress. Yeah. So that means he was still testing him to say, Abraham, are you still going to trust me? Are you still going to trust and believe that I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever? Yes. He offered up Isaac. And he had received the promises of God, was ready to sacrifice his only son. By faith, Abraham was ready to sacrifice his only son because God was still testing his faith. Has God ever come to you and called your name when you were watching your favorite TV show? Eating your favorite meal? You know, you just sit down at the dinner table, boy, that steam's rolling up off of it, and you're like, yes, boy, you feel that presence, and you're like, okay, give me 5 minutes, and then I'll be there. 5 minutes turns into 10, 10 minutes turns into 30, 30 minutes turns into, oh God, I'll do it tomorrow, and then you wake up and you have a terrible day, but yet you were unaware of the fact that when God was calling you, it was in those moments, or that moment, he was going to prepare you for meal was down. I didn't have enough faith because my TV show. You know, you can take TV shows now. You can pull it up on every network. I'm talking to my controller because I'm too lazy to type. And so you just press a little microphone, talk it in there, it tells you where it is, where you can find it, and you're like, hey! Didn't even have to just type it out. Takes 5 minutes. My dog looks at me like I'm crazy though. And everybody that walks into my room, my sister will like message me. She's like, who are you talking to? I was like, my controller. Because sometimes they don't pick it up and you gotta yell it, you know. Survivor! And it's like, I mean, the controller's right here. You're not picking it up. You don't have enough faith that what I'm saying is, you know, it's, anyway. But yeah, I'm sorry. That was, oh my God. But listen. I went south. But has it ever come to you? You can take that TV show. And if you miss it, an episode, what's really going to happen? Some stuff, you watch an episode and you think, wow, that was a waste of time. You ever come out of the presence of God and go, wow, that was a waste of time?
Nope.
Or you come out of the presence of God and most of the time you're like, woo, boy, I'm glad I followed that voice because what I found in there was exactly what I needed. Boy, I'm glad I pushed that away because what I needed was in the presence of God.
Amen.
And then 5 days later, when he's calling again, you know, faith still in progress. May not come when you want him, but he's always right on time. You ever notice when your favorite, he always comes, you know, it's like your parents. When you're a kid, I'm going to get in trouble, Chloe. You got to have my back. You're going to be my only friend here. There's a lot of parents in here. You know, when you're a kid, and it never fails. They don't call you and ask you to do something when you're walking by it.
Nope.
When you sit down, and you get, not even right when you sit down, it's when you get comfortable. You're laying in bed. Carrie! And I can lay in this bed and act like I don't hear her. Then that would be a different story. I tried it a couple times. I would not suggest that, children. Just listen. Don't suggest that. Just, you know, when your parents call, go. You know. But, you know, they never call, and it's, they ask you to get something in. Listen, I would tangle with my dad a little bit more than my mom. Sorry. But my mom, woo! I'm not playing around with her. I remember one time she called me and I said, Mom, I literally just walked by that. You can't get it yourself? She looked at me and I said, I'm just going to go get it. I'm just going to go get it. And sometimes we do God like that. We walk right past him. And he says, hey! Come back. You say, oh, I'm sleeping. Why couldn't you call me when I was up at like 9:30 or 7? Why does it have to be 2 o'clock in the morning? Why? Because it's in the comfortability that he wants to know how bad you want him. Will you lose sleep? Because at the end of the day, what will that sleep really do for you?
Come on.
And don't you think, here's the thing, don't you think God knows you have to work?
That's right.
Don't you think God knows you have children you gotta take care of? Don't you think God knows your life? See, here's the thing. Maybe it's in that moment he wants to bring a refreshing. Maybe it's in that moment he just wants you to feel his love. Maybe it's in that moment he wants to show you something in his word. Do you know just one moment in his presence doesn't just change everything? One moment in his presence gives you everything you need. Well, he had me studying from 2:30 to 4 o'clock. He'll fill you up. When you lay your head on that pillow and you wake up, I guarantee you, you'll wake up and you'll feel the best you've felt in years. I'm serious. There's been times I spent time with God and I got an hour of sleep and I woke up and I thought, wow, I felt like I slept for like 8 hours when I was only sleeping. You know why? Because he gives you everything you need. sometimes we miss it because we lack faith.
Come on.
Well, I got to get up and do this. Well, I got to do this and I got to do that again. He already knows it all. Why? Because he's your architect. He knows what your day looks like before you know what your day looks like.
That's right.
Even when you plan it in your head, he goes, they don't know that this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and that's not going to work out. But I'm going to see what they do when it doesn't work out. Because Lord knows when our plans don't go right, woo, doggy,
Come on.
all faith goes out the window. But what if the very thing you're going to face tomorrow, he's going to prepare you for?
Yes.
Sometimes we miss it because we're sleeping. These are just a few examples of people who have faith. People who were anointed. People who had callings on their life. They struggled. They were tested. But they had faith. You know, we say it all the time. If they came and threw me in a fiery furnace, I'd be like, listen, all that now. What do you want me to do? Be honest. If someone said, if you pray, I'm going to throw you in a lion's den, you probably say, I'm going to pray in my mind. Right in my head. Right there in my mind. Paul and Silas. Well, I don't want them in prison cell. I don't want nobody to know. I'm just going to close my eyes and we'll just hum it. Silas, we'll just hum it. David, don't stand under the mulberry tree and wait for it. Just go ahead and do what you need to do. How often do we do that with God? So we may not physically be thrown in a den of lions, but sometimes we feel like our life's a den of lions. And we say, God, why me? Why am I here? Just like me, I ask God, can I not go through this and have the same outcome? No, you can't. Because it's in the middle. It's through the fire that you learn what you need to learn. It's through the fire that as you go through the fire, what doesn't come out of that fire with you, don't go back to that fire again. When you're sitting in there with the lions, whatever don't come out, don't take it back. When you're in that jail cell and the doors come open, whatever chains fall off, don't put them back on. Why am I in the same den of lions? Well, because you went back. See, do you know the kind of faith that said, you know what, my God's bigger than your God. My God's bigger than any lion. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, my God's bigger than any fire. I'm not bowing down to that golden image. Where has it ever taken me? What's it ever done for me? And you know what? They even looked at him and said, we're not careful to answer you. Well, that's bold. If you stand in front of a king and say, I don't care. I'm not even careful to answer you. Do we have that kind of faith that we look at the devil and we say, I'm not scared. I'm not careful to answer you. I take authority over every distraction. I don't want it. I want God and everything He has for me.
Come on.
I won't bow down to the rebel in my life. I won't bow down to the things in my life that I left the door open to at once to steal my faith, to steal my life. But what I will do is have the kind of faith that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did, that went right through the fire, that Noah had, that when God says, hey, build an ark, I'm going to build an ark. When God says, hey, open every window in your house and shout my name, will you do it? The kind of faith that it took when Joshua marched around the walls of Jericho and it came falling down. It wasn't just the noise that brought it down. It was faith that brought it down. It was the faith that Joshua had. Think about it. What do you think Joshua gave Joshua that faith? Maybe because when everybody left, he was the one that sat and waited. Maybe he was the one that said, that's okay, you can all leave, but I'm not leaving until I know God's done. Maybe it was in that moment he prepared him for the walls. Maybe it was in that moment he prepared him to come back with a good report. Because it was in that moment of intimacy he had faith. We go through so many things in this life. Don't get me wrong. Man, we struggle. There's days I've literally felt like throwing up my hands and saying, why? I just don't get it. I just don't understand. Here's the thing. Faith is trusting God when you don't understand. I may never understand why I've hurt the way I've hurt. I may never understand why there's so much trouble. I may never understand. But through it all, there's one thing I know. He had a plan for me. No matter how hard it was to get here, I'm standing here. Are there still days I want to throw up my hands? Yeah. Are there some days I don't understand? Yes. But I have to remember, I don't have to understand it all to know that He's got me. I don't have to understand it all. But the one thing I do know is that when I close my eyes and I give Him everything, He's always right there. It's not no man, it's not no TV show, it's not no phone, it's not no friend. Sometimes we're so focused on the storm that we miss what He has for us in the middle. And I promise you, in the middle, He's still there. You say, Kara, well, how do you know that? Because He did it for Abraham. He did it for Jesus. He did it for Paul and Silas. He did it for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He did it for David. Why can't He do it for you? Even Peter, right there in the middle of it all. Because when we fall from time to time, we repent. Know this. He has a plan. He is our architect. When we trust the plans, when you hire an architect and they bring you plans back, you don't know what they're going to bring you. You give them ideas and you give them these things, but here's the thing. I don't have to have ideas. I don't have to have agendas. I see where that got me. A whole house of rubble. I'm going to let Him draw it. I'm going to let Him do it. This will be the outcome. Right here. Jesus will be my outcome. The peace in the middle of my weakest moment. The peace in my best moment. Don't be so worried about the storm. that you want me to see right now? What is it, God, that you want me to learn right now? When you have negativity, it's like faith. So when you face a storm, know that you're never alone. I didn't get anywhere where I wanted to go. Again, I don't understand his plan, but he does. You say, Carrie, what are you trying to say to me? Where's our faith? Where do we put our faith in? When you have faith in somebody, you wholeheartedly give them 100% of yourself. Have you given 100% of yourself to God? Have you said, God, here I am. God, I thank you for your word. God, I thank you that every time that we face the storm, you've never left us. On our happiest days, you've never left us. God, if there's anyone in this room who is struggling tonight, who says, I am that man, I have found myself struggling. I have found myself where I said, God, are you still here? God, I am that man who's wondered, why me? God, I pray tonight that you would fill this room with your spirit. That you would reach into every heart, God, that is diligently seeking for you. You would reach into their heart and blow a refreshing. God, that you would reach your hand. Let them feel your presence, God. You know, I was listening to this song today. It said, in the crushing, in the pressing, you make new wine. It's in that crushing, it's in that pressing, that something new is coming. You just gotta let him press it. You just gotta let him crush it. You gotta let go. Says God, take away the old flames and give me a new fire. God, whatever in me is dull, let your spirit blow on those coals tonight and start a fresh fire. God, that we can walk in faith greater than we've ever walked in faith. And no matter what we'll face, God, we face it with you. God, right now, you do the work. No one can move like you can. No one can heal and restore like you. You are the architect. Take your pen and have your work, God. God, I thank you for your word. I thank you for your presence. I thank you for this church. God, I even pray for those who are sick right now in their bodies. God, that you would bring a healing from the top of their head to the soles of their